Welcome to today's lecture. This is Blessed Elvis. So in today's lecture, we are going to discuss the functions. So functions are simply the algebraic expressions which are represented by, let's say, f of x, g of x, h of x, or any other letter that they can use. So these letters that you have used here are the most common ones. And in case where they haven't written a function in such a manner, it can also be represented by y. So whenever you have y equated to a certain algebraic expression, then that is a function. For example, if you have, let's say, f of x equals to, let's say, x squared plus 1, this is a function. Now, in this case, if they haven't used f of x, they can use g of x equals to x squared plus 1. Apart from this, they can also use h of x equals to x squared plus 1. Again, apart from this one, they can just directly say y equals to x squared plus 1. So all these algebraic expressions we have here are what defines a function. Now that we have understood this concept, let's go and discuss the relations of the functions. So a function can be written in form of two sets, where you have the one set on the left side and the other set on the right side. So the set on the left side is called the domain. And the result of this domain is what we call the range. So apart from the range, this can also be referred to as the image, because this is the result of this, the reflection of this. Okay, so it's the same as the relationship we have with our parents. Our parents are called the domains, and we children, who are the results of our parents, are what we call the range. So we are the image of our parents, which in this case is the domain. Now that you have understood this concept here, so let's say, for example, you may have the values, let's say 1, 2, and 3. Now, let's say the range or the image of this is the square of this domain here. So this implies that in the range, we're going to have 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, and 3 squared is 9. So these are the range or the image, whereas these are the domains. I hope that you have understood this concept. Now there are 4 types of relations that we have of the functions. The first one is what we call one-to-one function. So a one-to-one function is simply a mapping of two sets according to the element. For example, we may have, let's say, this is a function and this is a set. So in this set, let's say we have 1, 2, and 3. And then here we have 1, 4, and 9. So for a one-to-one function, you simply map an element with an element. So let's say we map this to this, this to this, directly, this to this as well. So this one is called a one-to-one function. And this one is called the domain, and this one is called the range. So this is a one-to-one function. The other type of a function we have is many-to-one. Many-to-one, just like the terms implies. Okay, so many-to-one is where you are mapping a lot of things into a one function, or rather producing one image. Let's say, for example, you may have this and this. So let's say this is 1, 2, 3, and this is 1, 4, and 9. So many-to-one, meaning that a lot are just being mapped to a one thing. Let's say we have this one here. Okay, this is not true. Let me just use the letters so that we don't get confused here, because 1 is not the product of 1 and 2. So let me just use the letters A, B, and C. So let's say 1 and 2 are producing A, and also let's say 2 and 3 are producing B. Let's say 1 and 3 also are producing C. So as you can see, this is a main to 1. This one here is being produced from a lot of these. Okay, so this is an example rather of a main to 1 function. We have another type of a function which we call one to main. So a one to main function, as the term implies, it's one element producing main elements. So let's say we have type of functions here. Let's say this is 1, 2, 3, and also have A, B, and C. So a one to main is simply one function being produced from main of these. So let's say A and B are producing 1. Then let's say C and B are producing 3. So even if it's like this still is the domain and this is the range. So in this case then, only one is producing main. In this case, this is called a one to main function. Apart from this one, there is also what we call main to main. So this is the last type of relation we have, main to main. So main to main is where a lot of elements are mapping into other elements. So let's say we have this being mapped to this, and also this being mapped to that. So as we can see, these are producing this, whereas these are being mapped from this. Okay, so we can even have, let's say, this and this being mapped to this, whereas this and this being mapped to that. So a lot of these are being mapped to a lot of other elements. So that's how it goes when it comes to the types of relations. So one to one is one element being mapped to another. Main to one is simply main elements being mapped to one element. One to main is simply one element being mapped to main elements. Then main to main is simply main elements being mapped to other main elements. So these are the types of relations that we have. However, let's dive now into understanding the functions themselves. So the functions are said in the introduction, but we have types of f of x. So these are the ones that I'm going to be using. The different letters that I will be using, that is f of x, g of x, and h of x, to represent the functions. So if you have been given a function, you can be asked to replace a certain value into a function. Let's say, for example, you have been given a function f of x equals to, let's say, x squared, then plus 1. And then you have been asked to find the value of f of 2. So what this means is that in this function here, where there is x, you have to simply replace with 2. So let's do that. So in this case then, we're going to have f of 2 equals to 2 squared plus 1. Then we know that 2 squared is simply 4, and then we add 1 here. So f of 2 in this case then, it's going to be 4 plus 1, which is of course 5. So this is the answer. You can be given different kinds of expressions. Let's say g of x equals to, let's say, x plus 2 over, let's say, 5. Okay, so 5. So in this case, let's say you have been asked to find the value where g of x, okay, rather g of x, okay, let me just write it properly. G of x, let's say g of let's say 8. In this expression then, it means that where there is x, you simply have to replace with 8. So we're going to have g of 8 and then equals to, where there is x, we add 8 plus 2 over 5. Then 8 plus 2, we know is 10 over 5, then 5 into 10, it's simply 2. So this is how we replace the given elements of the functions. However, apart from this, you can even be asked to solve the given function. Let's say you have been given a function. Let's say h of x equals to, let's say, x squared plus, let's say, plus 1. And then you have been told that h of x, let's say, equals to, in this case, we can say 5. So what this means is that where there is this function, there is what? 5. So you have to replace where there is this function with 5 here. So let's do that. So in this case, where there is h of x, we are going to replace with 5 equals to x squared plus 1. So let's solve this expression. So this one here will come to the left side. Of course, we are going to have 5 minus 1 equals to x squared. Then 5 minus 1, it's 4, equals to x squared. So in this case then, since we have this, we can simplify in the square roots. So the square root of this and the square root of that. So now when you are finding the square root, you have to add positive or negative. So what's the square root of 4? It's simply 2. So in this case then, x equals to positive or negative 2. So in this case, our value of x is positive 2 or it's negative 2. So this is how we solve the given function. So you can be given different kinds of functions, and then you have been asked to replace with the elements, or you have been asked to solve that given function. This is how you simply do. You equate the given value of the function to a certain function, to a given function, and then solve for the variable that's present in the expression. So that's all for this video. In the next video, we are going to discuss the composite and inverse of different functions. Thanks once again, guys, for staying this far. Please like, subscribe, share, and turn on the notification button so that you are updated whenever I upload a new video. Stay blessed.